review family, keep it tight. My name is Morris Review Guy, and I'm back again to bring you another video, and in this one I'm going to be reviewing the new Highasakite album entitled Uranium Heart. So Highasakite is a Norwegian indie pop and indie rock band formed in 2011, and this is their 4th studio-length album. And in the past, I have enjoyed some kind of odds and ends tracks from the band. I really dug into their pillowy, dreamy type aesthetic, which is a style that I'm usually very picky with, and a style that I have trouble really getting into a lot of the times for either overproduction, feeling too shimmery, feeling disingenuine. There's a lot of reasons that I have trouble enjoying this genre a lot of times, but when I found out that Highasakite was releasing an album, I couldn't help but get excited for the release, and here we are. Alright, so this is their best album, check that off, and it's really, really good. And Highasakite nails it. That pillowy aesthetic that I was talking about is nailed on this album. The vocals from Marty are super, super well produced, and they're prominent in the mix, and most of the time that would be something I would complain about for them being this harsh in the mix and this in your face in the mix, to the point where sometimes her voice can drown out the rest of the instrumentation, but I don't complain whatsoever considering how well tailored her voice is on this album, especially sitting shoulder to shoulder with these beautiful soundscapes that are being formed on this album. Too Early is such a great example of that. Her vocals are super prominent, but not too prominent. They're very loud in the mix, but not too loud. This song really does reach a beautiful sonic peak in the latter half of the track near the end, and it really does set the tone for the album. The shimmering electronics on this track are just downright gorgeous. I really do love the lyricism on this track. It's not too over the top, it's not too stereotypical, it's easy to follow, easy to understand, easy to relate to, and I think that's very important, especially for an album that is this cute and bubbly. But don't let that cute aesthetic fool you, because like on the track Revolution, this track goes straight on synth pop, and it is very cute, it's very pretty, but it is super dark as well when you dig into some of the lyrics and you dig into some of the different types of themes that they're going for. The electric percussion sounds very dark and grim, but the electronics would make you think that this is just a happy like 80s synth pop song. Almost sounds like a Church's song, and to be honest, that is an influence. I'm not sure if it is an influence, but through this album I got a lot of whiffs of Church's, and as a Church's fan I'm not really complaining. It's not super like, oh my god, they're really copying Church's. It's more so just something that's like there. And while I'm talking about Revolution, I should go ahead and point out the fact that the chorus is catchy, it's dreamy, and the layering on the vocals are done to a really nice effect. The track I Call Bullshit really does remind me of Massive Attack's track, Teardrop, if anyone's ever heard that track. I don't know why, it just really does remind me of that. The lyrics on this track are a bit it's one of the weaker points for an album that has some very clever, some very powerful, and poetic at times songwriting to it, but I can't deny the fact that the electronics and the piano on this track work so well in my opinion. Mexico is a very dreamy track as well. It has a nice indie rock feel. Her voice almost sounds kind of like Adele on this track. It has a very soulful, powerful resonance throughout the entire track, from the instrumentation feeling very theatrical, very epic, very powerful, very emotional, and her voice accompanying that with the same type of emotion that the instrumental is really showcasing, and I do like that a lot. Although Mexico Part 2, which is about a minute or so, I think it should have just been one track. It's very faint, it is different than the first part, and I do think it could have been one track, and I don't think it really needed to be separate and differently mixed and stuff like that, but that's just me. Hail of Bullets, for being almost 6 minutes long, it's 5 minutes 44 seconds, does not bore me at all. I get some more Church's vibes on this track, and it's very pretty. The aesthetic is really glimmering. If I have not said that about this entire album already, I want to nail that in, and the mixed in falsetto on this track is very good, and I love the chorus on this track, and I love the lyrics on this track. The songwriting is super, super powerful. Out of Order has some great lyricism built behind it. I love the sentiment of like, I'm a runaway child, and kind of telling the story of that. Love the acoustic guitar throughout, especially in the intro. Very kind of gloomy and forlorn, but still emotional. I think that Mort's vocals come through very well on this track. It is super dark. It sounds nice. The only thing I can really complain about this track is how I feel like the chorus sounds a bit louder. Like, it's kind of weird. It caught me off guard. It was like much louder in the mix than anything else on this track. And I'll assume that's intentional, but the bridge on this track is super beautiful, super great, and the second verse descends into a really nice composition with the electronics. Really do dig into this track quite a bit. Also, any band or artist that uses the term hopelessly hopeful is going to get a +1 in my book any day. I love that sentiment so much. Egomaniac, 6 minutes and 50 seconds. My favorite track on the album, asking questions to said egomaniac. Super shimmering, great production, the falsetto being reverby and very beautiful. Love some of the lyrics on this track where it's like you're wholly out of spite and stuff like that. Really is nice how you're not able to let go of this person who is kind of has a bad personality or this egomania trip. This, in my opinion, has the best vocals on the entire album, and it gave me a shot of why I enjoyed Jess Glenn's album last year so much. Jess Glenn's album, Always in Between, took home, I forget where it was on my list, but it was very high up on my favorite albums list. Her vocals remind me a lot of Jess Glenn on this track, and I don't know why. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and I was like, wait, this reminds me of Jess Glenn. And the last minute of this track, the last like minute and a half, is one of the most beautiful soundscapes that I have heard this year so far, if not the most beautiful. It is absolutely so amazing how the instrumentation breaks up, yet somehow stays claustrophobic in this dance of instruments and electronics just all coming together in this cacophonous amalgamation of beauty. And I know I just contradicted myself about 15 times in that sentence, but if you go and listen to this track, you'll understand what I mean. It sounds amazing. Uranium Heart, the self-titled track, is much different than anything else on the entire album. It has a stripped-back acoustic guitar instrumental, and I do dig the lyrics on this track quite a bit. That's one of the main reasons that I do enjoy this track, because for the most part, besides the vocal performance and the lyrics, I don't think that on this specific track the instrumental is that powerful, but I do dig the lyrics quite a bit. How it's like, you won't break my uranium heart, and then it's like, so fire away, so fire away. That refrain is so good in my opinion, and I do love how it's mixing low and high vocals in the mix, mixed very well, I might say. The production on this album being very good, as I already stated. So yeah, it's not my favorite track on the album, but it is still a standout because of vocal performance and because of the lyricism, which is the case of a lot of this album, but a lot of this album has some really nice soundscapes as well. Stick With You brings even more Churches vibes in my opinion. It has a very intimate, close, claustrophobic type of singing style, very intimate type of sounding, and the instrumental being very lo-fi in the background, kind of pillowy, almost forlorn and dejected, and the lyrics on this track being very good. I love the line, I think I'll stick with you because you save me every day. I believe that's something like how the line goes. I do love that line a lot, and for this track being so short, I believe it's like 2 minutes and 44 seconds, it does leave a nice impact. The outro track is entitled Outro, and it gives me even more Churches vibes. It's 1 minute and 47 seconds, or 1 minute and 48 seconds, and I wanted this track to go on longer. There's no vocals, but it's the most atmospheric track on the entire album, save for that last minute in Egomaniac. I love the atmosphere of this track, and when it was fading out, I was like, no, come back. It's so great. The electronics work really well on this track, and there's not much else to say about this track for it being so short, but it really does leave off on such a great note and a theatrical note, considering how epic this entire album experience was. I'll applaud Highasakite for really taking home an amazing album for me, and I don't know really what more else to say about this album besides check it out. It's an experience, and I'm explaining it pretty poorly, kind of like how I did with Ylvisong's album last year. That album took home a 10 out of 10, and sometimes I will listen to an album and formulate my opinions and sketch out my opinions, write it out, all that type of stuff, and I'll still not be able to explain it as well as I listened to it, I guess I should say, and overall, this album, I don't have much to complain about at all. All of the tracks have some really awesome moments, and I do enjoy the lyricism on this album. It's so mature songwriting, great vocal performance, amazing vocal performance, great production, great instrumentation, some of the best electronic instrumentation that I've heard in a while, and yeah, there's not much I can say about this album left, so I think I'm just gonna have to give this album a 9 out of 10. Is that a wrap? I think that's a wrap. So, have you guys heard this album? If you have, you can go ahead and post in the comments section below. This is very uncomfortable. And note to self, don't play with angles. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. It helps me out a lot. Subscribe to the channel and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. I upload regularly, and I'll talk to you guys next time. But until then, my name is JMoreServeYouGuy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.